If you have ever struggled with representing things like money, phone numbers, or email addresses in your code, then this video is for you. Value objects are one of the key building blocks in domain-driven design. What makes them special is that value objects do not need an identity. They are equal if their properties are equal. So think about money. If you have two $5 bills, you don't care which is which. They are interchangeable because they represent the same value, 5. And that's exactly how value objects work in code. Before we build a value object, I will write down 3 key characteristics that we should follow while we build one. So I will create a new PHP file and call it index. So inside here, the first characteristic is immutability. So they are immutable. Now, what does this mean? It means that once they are created, they cannot be changed. Their value cannot be changed. Number 2 is that they have validation. So they validate their data on creation. This is great because we have out-of-the-box validation whenever we need money, email address, street, age, or whatever value object you're building. So self-validation. And number 3, value objects are equal if their properties are equal. So let's say easy to compare. Now I share all this information and a lot more around PHP, domain-driven design, Laravel, and so on Twitter. So if you like, you can see that I have so many tips here about value objects, DDD, Laravel as well. So go there and take a look around and see if you like something. Maybe you might learn something new from there. And I also have this 0.1dev blog website where I blog about programming, Laravel, again, PHP, domain-driven design, and so on. So back to this. And what I want to do now is to create a value object. So I'm going to create a directory here and call it value objects. And I will open the terminal. And what I'm going to do here is to say composer init inside the root of it. And let's say work resuscitate. Does it work with dots? Okay, it works. Everything else is default. All right, cool. So I will move this value objects directory inside src, or this is where it should be. And inside here, I will create a currency class. Okay. And I also have to make sure that the PSR works. So for the PSR4, I'm going to remove this part and simply say up with 2 slashes at the end. And everything is inside src. So I have to go here and say namespace up value objects. And that should be it. So the first characteristic of a value object, as we said, is immutability. They are immutable. Now, what I can do is to create a constructor here. And let's discuss about currency. So what makes a currency a currency? Well, the HYSA code. So a currency can be like a USD currency or like a Euro currency. And we have this 3-letter HYSA code. So I'm going to create a public read-only string HYSA code property here to represent a currency. Now you might say, why public? Why not simply read-only string HYSA code or private? Why do we define it as public? Because I want to avoid doing this. Okay, I don't want to do this because this method here, as of now at least, this is not necessary. It is useless. So I want to avoid that. And in order to avoid that, I can just say public for HYSA code, and then I can access it later on as, let's say, currency HYSA code. And the read-only makes it immutable. This is the important part here, the read-only. And because the value object is immutable as a whole, what I'm going to do is to take this read-only property there and move it to the class. So now we have defined the whole class immutable, the whole class read-only. So every single property in this class now is immutable. So once we set a value to them, they cannot be changed. All right, so number 2, the second criteria is self-validation. And to achieve this, I will have the self-validation inside the constructor. So I'm going to add an if statement. So if it is not in the array, the ISA code, what array? Well, this array. So if the ISA code is not one of these values, that we are going to throw a new invalid argument exception, and let's say invalid ISA code. This is the error. So self-validation again is completed. And the last characteristic is easy to compare. And to do that, I'm going to create a public function equals, and we are going to accept a currency because this is one of the properties that we have. And I'm going to name it that. Why? Because it makes it so easy to read. And this is going to return a Boolean. So here we say return this ISA code equals to that ISA code, you see? So if this ISA code, inside this class of course, is equal to the given to that ISA code, then they're equal. And what I can do as well is to have a not equal method here. And again, it is going to take a currency, that, and return a Boolean. And we simply say, if not, this equals that. So as you can see here, we just built two very simple equality methods. One that checks if they're equal, and the other one checks if they are not equal. So let's now dive to the index file. And first of all, we have to require the autoload. All right, so require vendor autoload, and inside here I will create a currency. So we're gonna do like currency equals to new currency and pass EUR for it, and we are gonna echo this. So if I go to the browser, and in order to do that we also have to run it, so php-s localhost 8000, and we go to the browser, we open it, and it looks like this is not loaded correctly. So let's take a look. Let me do a composer dump autoload. Is this going to fix it? Yes, it is. So here it is. So we have now the output, which is EUR for euro. And we can do USD as well for it. You can see we have now USD. However, if I pass a value that is not inside this array, then this is going to throw an exception. The invalid argument exception with the message invalid ISA code. So let's try that. As you can see, invalid ISA code. Great. And the most important part of it is that if I try to change the ISA code from euro to Albanian lek, this is not going to work. Cannot modify a read-only property. Why? Because this is immutable. Once the currency has an ISA code, you cannot change it. And this is the beauty of it. This is the beauty of a value object. So for the second step, I want to build a complex value object. So I want to combine this currency code with something else. I will open the directory here, the value objects, and create a new value object and call it money. We will follow the same steps as we did for the currency value object. And I'm going to take this to the right. And step number 1, immutability. Again, I will mark this class as a read-only. And then in the constructor, we are going to add our properties. So the first property is the currency. So public currency, and the second one is public int amount. So as of now, we have immutability, both because the class money is read-only, both these properties, currency and amount, are immutable. Once they're set, they cannot be changed. For the second step, self-validation. So what should I self-validate? Well, in this case, nothing. As you can see, you don't always need validation. This value object is enough to represent money, and the validation always depends on your business logic. And this is what DDD is all about. Business logic, domain logic. Now, suppose our business logic says that money cannot be negative, must be greater than 100 cents and less than 1,000,000 cents, then we can do it like this. Again, this is like an imaginary restriction of money business. So I'm going to create a const int max amount to 1,000,000, all right, and a const int min amount to 100, because this is what our business logic is all about. So we have this kind of the restriction. We don't want money to be more than 1,000,000 cents, and we don't want it to be less than 100 cents. And inside the constructor, I will have these three rules. So rule number one, if amount is less than 0, which is negative, of course, then we can throw an error and say that money amount cannot be negative. All right. The second one, if this amount greater than max amount, no, not this one, this one, amount exceeds maximum amount of, and then we can concatenate the self max amount. And I'm going to copy this because pretty much the exact same one is for the less for the min amount. So change these two to min amount and this one to less than. Okay, so amount must be at least min amount. Great. So we just added self-validation. What else can we do with value objects? Something that is very beautiful are value object specific methods, like format, for example. So let's create a public function, format, and this returns a string. And we can do something like this. This amount, and then this currency is the code. So we can combine these two, the currency value object and the money value object, in order to have something printed on our screen. So let's build this. So let's make use of these two. I'm going to remove this one and say money equals to new money, and new for currency we have new currency, EUR for euro, and the amount, which is, let's say 100. So these are all in cents or whatever you want to, you can do this like in euros as well. So 100 euros or 100 USD dollars, doesn't matter. So now we can do something like money format, and we can get the format of this result here. So if I go to the browser and reload, we get 100 euros, and that is so beautiful. With just a couple of lines of code, not only we built a value object for the currency, but we also built a value object for money, and this is a complex value object with validation, immutability, comparability as well. However, we don't have it for money, so let me create it for the money value object. We forgot about it. So how can we do that? I'm going to add an equals money that, and this returns a boolean. So to compare money, we are going to say return this. Well, the amount must be equal, right? So amount equals to that amount, and that should be it. Oh, sorry, that amount. That should be it for the money value object. However, we can take this a step further and also validate the currency as well. So this currency equals to that currency. And now we have equality for money as well. And I'm going to add the opposite. So not equal money that bool return not this equals. Nice. So there you go, and we can actually try this. So this is euro money. Let me create another euro money. This is number 2, number 1, number 2. And let's say new money, currency, new currency, EUR, and the amount is 100 as well. So if I say euro money 1 equals euro money 2, does it work? Yeah, we get true. However, if we change the value to 200, we get false. And if I change also like if we take the amount back to 100, we get true. However, if I change the currency to USD, because the currency is not equal, we should get false. And there it is. And well, you don't even have to specify that the currency ISO code is not equal, because the currency ISO code is self-validated inside the currency value object. I mean, this is great about value objects, that they have self-validation. And all I have to do here is to simply compare the amounts and the currency as classes, as value objects, not what is inside the currency, because what is inside is validated here. So that is really, really great. Now, the last thing that I want to do with value objects is to make their creation more elegant. As you can see here, to create money or a currency value object, we have to use the new keyword. And to me, that is not beautiful. And in order to avoid that, what I'm going to do is to go to the currency value object and make the constructor private. And I will add a public static function and call it make. And it takes the exact parameters, so ISO code, and returns itself. So return new self ISO code. So what I can do now is to go here and change the new currency to simply make. And you do not have to do this. This is just what I like doing with value objects. It just makes it easier to my eyes to read compared to new keyword. And I'm going to do the same one for money as well. So change the constructor to private and then add a public static function make. And I'm just going to copy these two parameters, paste, and remove public from them, because this is not a constructor, and this returns self, return new self, currency, amount. If you see value in this, go and do it. If you see the value in this, go do it. Otherwise, you don't have to. So this is what the final code looks like. And if I go back to this, it should just simply work. Let me echo the amount for euro 100. Let me format the money 100 EUR for euro. So this works 100%. And you can see how simple it is to build these two value objects. Now in the next video, I'm going to show you how to test these two value objects, how to write tests for these two. And it is so simple. So make sure you stay for the long run.